Welcome back. Gonna go over some basic dry brushing techniques. Very good, very easy way to just bring out some highlights, give a little extra detail, especially for your out of the box builds. You're not going super detailed. Gonna use a resin figure here. Not gonna go in full detail, just gonna give some basic techniques. Great idea for someone who's fairly new or someone who's never tried it. It is a very simple technique, but it can also be done wrong pretty easily or overdone significantly. All right, we'll talk equipment real fast. Need a paper towel or towel, whatever you want. Paper towels work really good, and as you see, I use them until they die. Your brushes, I like an old, worn out, flat brush, as it's my personal preference. I will use a round one sometimes as well. I like an old one. They tend to be a little heavier, a little thicker. They're not really good for painting too much anymore, but they work great for dry brushing. You can tell by the end of this one, I've used it a lot. I've had these for many years. Paint-wise, this is the base color that I used. He's primered in black, painted a layer of green. Gotta let it sit up and dry. Gotta make sure it's dry. Tamiya sometimes will actually pull back off when you go to dry brush with it. There are companies such as Citadel who now have paints that are in multiple shades. So you can get a green and you get a couple lighter shades of green. You can do a progressive dry brush with that. I like to use the mist gray once again. I don't use a lot of white. I've just found that there's not a whole lot of white in nature, so I'll use a very, very light gray to lighten up the other paints. So what I'll do is a gradual, just a little bit lighter shade than this, and then I'll set it up, do another lighter shade over the top of it from there. Alright, gotta let this dry and come back to it. Alrighty, this has had time to dry, so I'm going to take a little green, a little gray, lighten it up just a touch. Not a lot initially. Here's where the dry comes in play. I'm gonna rub most of the paint off. It kind of looks like that. Then you're gonna take your highlights and you're just gonna kind of lightly drift over the top. Remember, you only want to hit what is raised material. And we'll hit his neck here too. Mostly just going to do his legs. Alright, that only made a slight difference. We're going to take more green, a little more gray. We're going to go a little lighter this time. And with that lightened up, the creases start to come alive. Just ever so slightly brushing across the top. Very, very light on the brush. You just want to flick it back and forth across it. You don't want to grind the brush in. You don't want to be heavy with it. You just want to lightly kind of flick back and forth across. Go across this guy as well. There's your basic dry brush. Now I'm going to go one stage lighter. And I'm just going to hit very lightly just the highest portions of the material. The corners, I can use this little black gear pack right here to kind of show you. So I'm just slightly hitting the corners just like that. So you want to go ever so slightly with that lightest color of gray. Kind of gives you that last little highlight. Alright, that, there's a theme here of me throwing stuff. In a basic nutshell, is dry brushing. There's lots of things you can do from here. I always go back over and do, with this guy, I would probably do a black wash first. A light, kind of a light black, very thin. I would go over the top of that with a light tannish brown and then a dark green. And that's going to fill in all those cracks up inside of there to give it even more depth. And you end up with, this one just had a basic black coat over the top of it, but it gives it a little more depth in the inside. There you go. Very simple. Dry brushing works great. You can use it on all kinds of stuff. You guys have a good night.